Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, osia dem yopo.
The third prosecution witness in the trial of former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, that is Kwabena Boahene and two others, has revealed details of cash transactions and withdrawals and money transfers which she was authorized to make by the accused persons. As the one operating a company created by the accused persons for the purchase and the purpose of moving cash of these huge sums. On Wednesday, the 29th of April, Mildred Donko, the third prosecution witness for the state in the trial, took to the witness box and was led in evidence in chief by state attorneys from the Attorney General's department and made these revelations in her witness statement, which was adopted by the court. Mildred, who had earlier in the trial been withdrawn from prosecution as an accused person by the Attorney General to serve as a witness, told the court that she was made a director of the fourth accused person's company, which is called the Advantage Solutions, which is a shareholder of a fictitious company, the BNC Communications Limited Solutions. She said that Boahene brought her the company registration documents at home and asked her to sign to become a director and further instructed her to open a bank account for that company. According to the witness, she was also made a director of 7 other companies which she believes are owned by Kwabena Boahene. So it gives an idea of what exactly took place in court today, where this particular witness, who is a former worker, her name is Mildred Donko, a former worker for Kwabena Boahene, the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, chose to testify for government or for the state. And by doing so, she is now testifying against her employer and the companies that the employer, employed her for, the companies that she was working for. And it turns out that she said she was asked to sign some documents which were brought to her at home by Kwabena Boahene in the very early stages of the setting up of the company. So she became a director of one of the companies. The key role she played included withdrawing sums of monies and transferring them to other persons or other companies believed to be owned by Kwabena Boahene. And she also told the court that she was made a director of 7 other companies which she believes are also owned by Kwabena Boahene. So she is now testifying for the state against her former boss. We'll give you updates on all of these subsequent bulletins. But proceedings continue today in the trial involving Akonta Mining and its alleged activities in the Tano Nimrim forest, with the High Court admitting a key fire report into evidence despite objections from the defense. Deborah Abba-Mensah was in court and reports that the case has since been adjourned to the 11th of May 2026. And we'll also try and update you on what exactly the interest has been. So let's listen in. All right, so we'll try and bring you that insert shortly about the report from the courts, and then also to find out what exactly the next line of action would be. Now that the case against Akonta Mining and its owner, who is the current regional chairman of the NPP, he is in court for a number of alleged violations. So today's proceedings, we're told that it continued. However, the issue at the High Court was that they admitted a key fire report into evidence despite the objections from the Akonta Mining Company. Our reporter who was in court has filed this report.
In court on Thursday, May 30, Senior State Attorney Nanama Prempe argued for the admission of a fire service report linked to an incident at Samurai Boy, which the prosecution says is connected to the operations of the first accused, Akonta Mining. Counsel for the second accused, Andy Appiah, could be objected to the document, arguing that the witness was neither the author of the report nor properly connected to the Ghana National Fire Service. He further contended that the defense had not been served with the document and urged the court to reject it. However, the prosecution maintained that the objection was misplaced, citing provisions under Section 126 of the Evidence Act. The prosecution argued that the report, having been prepared by a fire officer in the course of duty, met the conditions for admissibility. The presiding judge overruled the objection and admitted the document, indicating that it could be relied upon during cross-examination. The principal witness, a former general manager of Akunta Mining, Edward Akwaku, told the court that the trucks involved were transporting washing plants into the Tanonimri forest. He said these activities were carried out under the direction of the company's operational team, which he indicated was largely controlled by Chinese nationals. According to the witness, although the second accused, Bernard Enchibuesiakun, was not physically present during operations, major decisions were influenced by him. The witness claimed that instructions were often issued through informal channels and implemented by the operational team, including himself. Under cross-examination, the witness admitted that he does not have formal legal training as he did not complete his LLB. He also confirmed that his appointment as general manager was not documented but was based on what he described as an endorsement by the second accused. Defense counsel challenged the credibility of the witness, suggesting that the second accused did not involve him in decision-making or operational directives. The witness rejected the claim, insisting that he played a central role in implementing instructions attributed to the second accused. Tensions briefly rose when defense counsel attempted to introduce a letter allegedly linked to the company's operations. The prosecution objected, stating that the document had not been disclosed and lacked essential features, including a letterhead. The court upheld the objection and declined to admit the document. Subsequently, the prosecution presented another letter. It said it did not intend to rely on, but was obligated to disclose. The court directed that the document be filed and served on the defense via WhatsApp. The case has been adjourned to May 11, 2026 for further proceedings, and the Appiah could be counsel for Bernard Enchibuesiakun, speaking to the media after proceedings, maintained that the witness was never appointed as a manager by Akunta Mining.
And if you have not been called as a witness, you cannot dispute a claim. So if somebody is in court and says that I'm who I am, it is for the court to investigate to find out whether he is who he is. So it is not incumbent on anybody outside the court to just jump into the court and say that he is not what he says he is. It is an issue of capacity that will be determined by a court. If it is raised, well, granted that capacity may not have been raised, then there was no onus on the court to investigate the background to see whether or not he had that capacity.
And you heard Andy Appiah could be ended that report.
In court on Thursday, May 30, Senior State Attorney
You heard that Andy Appiah could be, who is lawyer for Akunta Mining, and Bernard Enchibuesiakun, many know him as the chairman, won to me, ending that report about what happened in court today. Before we take, expressing a lot of confidence in the Ghanaian economy and praising the government for that. And this comes on the back of a number of press conferences by the minority side. So let's listen to what the majority have been saying. They say that the Bank of Ghana has so far incurred losses of 16.7 billion Ghana cedis in efforts to transform Ghana's economy. The caucus says government interventions over the years have led to lower inflation, reduced monetary policy and lending rates, as well as greater stability of the Ghanaian cedi. Addressing journalists as a member of the Finance Committee and MP for Sangnarigu, Ata Issa says that the measures have made the economy more resilient amid ongoing tensions in the Middle East.
For the family paying school fees, electricity and hospital costs, the stability is real. What lower inflation made possible? What made the lower inflation possible? The cost of 16.7 billion cost was incurred in 2025 through the Bank of Ghana open market operation, interest paid to absorb excess liquidity in the market. This led to inflation falling from 54.1% in 2022 to 3.2% in March this year. The monetary policy rate of government, that forms the basis of the Ghana reference rate and the interbank rate, fell from about 30%, that made cost of doing business so expensive, to about 14%. Lending rate has also fallen from about 35.6% in 2022 to 19.2% as at the end of 2025. Private capital demands, the real credit growth available to the private sector also grew by 0.2%, and it has increased also to about 15.3% by February 2026. Government cost collapse in terms of the 91 Treasury bill rate, moving from about 35.2% in 2022 to 9% as at February 2026. And then long-term planning returns through the fixed contracts and the 3-year investment, hiring plans became viable. And that's why you see a lot of development going on in the Bank of Ghana. And then confidence also surges. Consumer confidence has also increased from 79.2 percentage points to 111.7 percentage points as of January 2026. The stabilization of the cedi that we saw, which lost its value of 90% in 2024, for the first time in many years, gained its strength of 41% in 2025, and named the strongest currency of any emerging market in the world in 2025. The international reserve grew from 9.1 billion as at the end of 2024 to 13.8 billion as at the end of 2025, and now stood at 14.5 billion as at February 2026, the highest reserve Ghana has ever recorded in history. Policy rate has also seen a cut from 27% at the end of 2024 to 14% as at March 2026. The average lending rate have followed it down from 30.2% to 17.7%. That means cheaper loans for small business owners trying to expand, and farmer buying inputs, and trader who borrows to stock his shop, and the young couple buying for their first time. These are the costs or the benefit as a result of the cost done by the Bank of Ghana. Consider where we would have been today had this not work been done. If you wanted to reduce the equity position of government, consider the effect we would have been suffering as a result of that decision. Inflation would have still been high at about 23.8%. cedi would have still been weakening week after week. Reserve running lower, lending rate above 30%, and all this happening in a global environment of war, of trade tariffs reshaping the international ecosystem, of capital flight from emerging markets and other economies in our region, and beyond all are still struggling with all these pressures.
And you had the majority in parliament there. You had the MP for Sangnarigu, who is a member of the finance committee, addressing the media, where he further indicated that the Bank of Ghana's gold purchasing program generated an estimated $11 billion in gains, despite recording an operational loss of 9 billion Ghana cedis. Let's turn our attention
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.